Enthusiast Auto Group. Today we're at EAG's Paint Correction and Photo Studio, and we're with a very special EAG first look opportunity. This is a member of the San Francisco collection. It is a 1979 BMW M1, and today we're going to drive it like we stole it. It is a fantastic driver's car. That is what these cars were meant and built to do, and do reliably all across Europe in the time when the cars of this era were really that reliable, especially at this supercar performance level. And well, today we're going to talk about what makes this car special and unique, its history, as well as a quick up down in EAG's workshop number 2 on the lift, give you an undercarriage review and show you what a race car built by the factory, multiple factories actually, looks like from the underside. So do be sure to hit that like button if you're enjoying these videos, and subscribe if you want to see other first look opportunities before others in the marketplace. This is certainly going to be a fun one. You're going to want to stay tuned for this. So without further ado, let's go for a drive. The M88 is, well, the best sounding inline 6-cylinder BMW's made. They did it on their first go relative to the M platform. Well, yeah. Whoa. I think one of the best things about the M1 is simply the usability. It's just a car that you don't need to be afraid of to use, drive, and enjoy. You can take it to Cars and Coffee. You can do weekend road trips. You can go on the track. I took ours to the track one time. Flash track footage here. Driving this M1 absolutely takes me back to the first M1 that we had many years ago. And it's actually a really cool story that set me personally off on a quest to find an even better M1 to replace the one that got away. You'll hear that story in full-length form on VinWiki's YouTube channel here pretty soon, so do stay tuned for that. EAG's relationship with this M1 started like many these days, and that's when the phone rang. This time it was another fellow enthusiast out in Northern California, and he is the most recent owner of BMW of San Francisco. After many successful decades running that franchise dealership, he had amassed quite the car collection, primarily BMW M-Cars, including some race cars, including an M1 Pro car that was, well, the stablemate to this street car for quite a number of years. And having access to the full franchise dealership level of staff and pit crew, there's no surprise that he took very great care of his equipment, and knowing that he would be out at the racetrack doing the vintage races at the Monterey Historics and other events throughout the West Coast primarily, you're not going to spend all that time, effort, and energy to not finish an event due to a mechanical challenge or liability. And I think he certainly felt the same way about his street cars, and knowing that we bought all 6 that were offered to us. They all are in fantastic shape, and this car certainly is no exception. And it's going to be a lot of fun to take you up in the air and give you that full undercarriage review. But it's of course going to be way more fun to drive it, because that's really where the magic happens with the M1s. And this car does have a couple tasteful and choice upgrades in place, a bit of Pro car inspiration, I suppose. And thankfully we do have our fire extinguisher there to keep everything safe. Hopefully we do not need that today. 38,500 and change kilometers. We've got several keys for the car. The air conditioning system on this car works. That is something a lot of M1 owners probably cannot say, and I'm very thankful that it works on ours as well. There are a couple of fun facts about the M1 I wanted to share with you. The most interesting thing relative to the driving experience is the seating position. Your feet are off to the right a bit, kind of like a Testarossa. The pedal box area is very, very narrow. You will want to wear your driving shoes. And it is a dogleg transmission, which all the European cars of the era will sport that dogleg pattern. The windshield wiper is, of course, a mono wiper, and the visibility in this car is actually pretty darn good. You've got a relatively decent blind spot there, but overall the greenhouse is pretty visible. And the gauge is easy. The gas gauge, well, I know it works because we are very low on fuel, and of course with those dual filler necks you can pull right in the middle and fill both tanks up at once if you so choose. If you don't, you do have to wait quite a while for them to balance out with that I guess crossover tube there in the middle. Those are just a couple of the small little nuances. I have to say that the driving experience of this car is certainly very different than any other BMW, yet it is still a little bit familiar in its nature, albeit the weight is behind you, and it doesn't have a whole lot of tire under you compared to some of the newer cars with just 205s up front and 225s there in the back. But all in, you'll have a lot of fun if you ever do get a chance to drive an M1. I certainly encourage you to take advantage of that opportunity. They're just marvelous cars, and certainly have their place in BMW's history and motorsport history, no question. So. Oh my, if your heart wasn't beating before it is now, this car is just intoxicating. The real joy here, the belly of the beast, the heart, is this Paul Roche designed M88. This is the, well, grandfather of all M engines, and the next 3 decades or so have followed suit in the M family with this inline 6 throttle bodies, high compression, high revving, just absolute just symphony of a motor. The airbox has been removed, and the trumpets certainly are there on full display, and that's certainly going to give us a whole lot more musical soundtrack. And these, of course, Euro headers, which certainly exit the exhaust quite rapidly through this Pro Car style stainless steel muffler. I've been told that fireballs are known to exit that pair of tips. Hopefully we can catch some of that on video for you. That engine, though, sitting right behind your head, just it's something to behold. Fun fact, in the owner's manual it does say that BMW wants you to close the right side of the rear boot before latching the left side. I read that a couple years ago when going through our M1's literature, and found that quite interesting. The car does still have the side fillers, the gas fillers, one on each side. That was not part of the DOT conversion for whatever reason. It does have the US side markers, as we'll see here, both on the rear and the front. The paint on this car is white. All of the colors BMW M1 of the time were just simple white, black, red, orange. There was a gray and a blue. And this car was originally, like a lot of cars out there, not the color we're seeing today as it left the factory, but it was one of the orange cars, 98 of those built. And many cars, before they were originally delivered, if the first owner wanted a different color, the factory would repaint them, and or the dealers would repaint them, and or during one's ownership, post a new delivery, the owner would repaint them. And something we've seen quite a few times with the M1s, and this car was repainted in the early 90s. It was done quite well. The history of the car is relatively well intact. We do have a nice service binder, and do have a connection with the owner previous to the one in which we bought the car from, and did share a nice long telephone conversation getting all of the car's backstory. And there's just not a whole lot of details to that, other than the first owner had it to the mid 90s. The second owner, who did the color change, reportedly is a relatively famous artist, and the third owner owned the car up until 2013, when the San Francisco collector did buy the car. It is really a very original car. The interior is all original, the houndstooth and leather. The body, for what we can tell, we'll know certainly if we do decide to go through and repaint the whole car, does though appear to all be original and never having been taken apart. We'll have a better look when we are on the underside, of course. And you know, the paint on the car is overall, it's pretty darn good. It's a good driver's paint job. It's not been paint corrected. It's not been cleaned up and gone through to any degree. But if you want to use and drive and enjoy the car and not have to worry too much about it, we would leave the car the way that it is, if white is your preferred color. If we want to go a full repaint in the white, no problem. If we want to go back to the original factory orange, EAG is certainly equipped to do that next door in our paint and body department. Several customer cars going through full restorations on the exterior, as well as one of the EAG E28 M5s going through the Euro bumper conversion as well. There's not anything that we do not do in-house, and throughout the videos you certainly have seen and had an opportunity to see all the different departments and what we do every day here at EAG. This one's going to be a little bit different than that. We're going to bring the next owner part of it. The mechanical portion of the rejuve EAG is going to take and do our normal full spectrum on ensuring that the mechanical integrity of this car is at our level, albeit it came in really great condition, mechanically speaking, given the car's previous owner and you know, the enthusiasts that have been responsible for this car up until this point in time. The undercarriage of the car, though, is the next. We're going to go down to the workshop number 2, get this thing up in the air, and then go get some really fun seat time. So stay tuned. The E36 M1 was certainly ahead of its time, and that becomes quite a bit more clear on the underside. All of the body panels here are protected and kind of shielded off, which in theory should create additional downforce. Not something other manufacturers were doing a whole lot of in period, but it's pretty nice to see we don't have any type of oxidation or rust or corrosion that has started in. The overall underbody is in quite good shape, very well intact, and the normal spots where they do rust, which is real prevalent here along the rocker panels, will be one of the more common areas where we do start to see oxidation and rust and corrosion start to set in. Of the 453 M1s, the 399 street cars were the same setup, suspension and chassis-wise, as the 54 Pro cars. You will see the adjustable mounting points for the suspension arms, as well as the eccentric kits to dial in your camber just the way you want it. The suspension system was replaced in 2013 and has about 3,000 or so kilometers on it since. It was good to see the old school mechanics noting their work. 719, the oil was changed most recently. We'll be, of course, changing that during the car's final post-sale inspection and service. But all in, really a solid car that, again, is tailored to the driver. It's ready to go. We're going to certainly update a fair amount of small stuff. One quick easy thing to visually identify here are the front sway bar links, which have obviously passed their prime. Before leaving Workshop 2, we should maybe take a quick lap through. We've got a lot of really cool hardware in the workshop today, of course, with the M3 GT front and center, just finishing its rejuve roadmap and heading to another Enthusiast home over in Indiana. That will be joining a lightweight and a lot of other fun, cool E36s. Next door we have the 3,000 mile 2003 Carbon M5 that has been sold to a repeat client in Texas. Congratulations, Mark. Looking forward to getting that over to you. And we have a custom rejuve here on the M1 that the history dates back to when the car was new. You got a better vantage point here of the suspension mounting points. That's where the gas tank and the oil reservoir live there on the passenger side. Those have been sent out to be cleaned and plated, and the project is starting to move along. We've had to take a little bit of a pit stop here and there given the amount of other rejuves that have come into the workshop, but here is that M88 in removed form. It is really just it's a beautiful engine, frankly, and it was repainted quite early in the car's life into the diamond Schwartz of all things. Not even a factory color in period, but you'll see the larger US front reflectors as well as the larger DOT bumpers in the front and rear, which will certainly be a bit different than what we're going to notice on the M1 feature of the day. There you have the rear reflectors and of course the bumper strips removed, but that also sticks out quite a bit further than it does on the European spec. Completing the hot lap, E34 M5 Euro that is in for rejuve, another new piece of arrival. I guess this is a first look, a 1M in the 5.5, 6,000 mile range that is a no option car, no hump, no nav. Stay tuned for that 1M coming to the website soon. E34 M5 wagon getting ready to head to its new home in Florida. Customer rejuve on a Euro M3 E36. Again, 2 Euro E36s in the workshop today. That doesn't happen too often. Another customer rejuve friend from South Carolina, a good old SIG member, multiple repeat client with a pair of Sport Evolutions actually. Z3M Coupe, a 2001 S54 Esthoro Blue, about 25,000 miles, heading to a new home in Florida. Congratulations, Bob in Naples. Looking forward to getting this car to you safe and sound. And congratulations to Jeff. This is a Le Mans Carmel, another first look that never hit the website, and heading to a new home in northern Michigan. Getting some choice Dynon upgrades, and can't quite get up there high enough, but going through its final post-sale inspection as well. And another customer rejuve E39 that he bought new. Hi, Johnny. So let's get the M1 down and take it for a drive. I can only imagine what the in-period drivers felt like driving the pro cars before the F1 races. It was, I'm sure, a very exhilarating experience that, well, comes across pretty clearly driving this car today. Never gets old. My gosh. The overall feel of this M1 is, well, awesome. It's tight, it's not making any abnormal noises, the suspension feels very, very solid and confidence-inspiring.